Today's adventure takes me to Yellowstone to see my grandkids. My daughter and her husband and family live just east of the park, and I'll be driving up and entering from West Yellowstone, and we're going to meet at Old Faithful. And as I come in the entrance from West Yellowstone, there's just a line of cars, and that's the rear view mirror. So in front and behind, lots of cars. But before long, I see some buffalo. The wind made it bad for the audio, so I silenced that. But just spectacular to see all the buffalo. And if you're interested in buffalo pictures, hang on for a while, because I saw lots of them, and it's just hard to stop taking pictures. Yellowstone was the first national park created by Ulysses S. Grant in 1872. In 1903, Teddy Roosevelt dedicated the partially completed arch at the entrance near Gardner. Though I entered from the west gate, the arch is at the north gate, and I've been there a number of times, and seen that 1903, I originally thought that's when the park was first dedicated, but that was just the arch. The park actually had been established some 30 years before. But I'm traveling in from the west gate, heading down to Old Faithful, just one little fraction of the park. And I'm stopping at several of the little overlooks and checking out the buffalo. Just spectacular. This is May 13th. And the park only opened on May 1st. And of course, last year, 2020, we had COVID, and the park was basically closed. Here you see some crazy idiots that walking right down to the buffalo. I thought about just keeping my camera on them, waiting for one of them to get attacked, but I didn't. I'm more interested in just watching the buffalo. And I could just sit there and watch them all day. Based on the amount of videos and pictures I took of them, you might think that I did. But I check out one site, drive a little further, and go to another site. You know, the scenery is spectacular without the buffalo, the lakes, the mountains, the trees. And you add the buffalo and it just makes it that much more spectacular. Just an amazing place. I've been there when I see hardly any buffalo, so I was particularly pleased on this drive to see so many. And this is just the first hour or so of day one. You'll see a number of these dry, dusty holes where the buffalo roll, and just cool to see. With the cool weather, they're very active, grazing. Just spectacular animals. I might have called them buffalo, but of course they're bison. Sometimes we call them the American buffalo. And I call them buffalo all the time, so you'll probably hear that again throughout this video. It's always hard for me when I'm taking pictures because I take so many of them. Each different angle. And then when I get back to do the video, I look and go, well, I can't leave that picture out. I can't leave that picture out. That's just spectacular. And of course they all are. And they all tell a little bit different story. Give a little different view of what's going on. So just sit back and enjoy the pictures of buffalo for a while. Here you'll see them walking right by my car. A couple times I had to kind of move out of the way so I didn't become a statistic in the park. One with the calf. When they're young, they're kind of orange. Just a spectacular, spectacular scenery. I was behind that log. That was going to protect me. But if you're patient, the buffalo just kind of walk, the whole herd kind of walks by. You get some spectacular photographs and videos without getting too close to them. I've got a cabin for the night at Old Faithful, and so my daughter that's coming in from the East End and their family, we said we'd meet up about noon. And I was driving in, I actually left in the morning from Idaho Falls. So I didn't have a whole lot of time. But I just couldn't stop watching these buffalo. The phone reception isn't very good in the park, and I knew I may not be able to contact my daughter, so we also said if we get lost or it takes a little longer, we'll just meet at Old Faithful at 1 o'clock. So I kind of set my schedule to get there between noon and 1 o'clock so I could meet up with my daughter. So it only gave me a few hours to drive from West Yellowstone, which is actually, I believe, Montana, into the park that's mainly in Wyoming, and see some of the attractions as I head down to Old Faithful. Here I'm driving out of one of the little stops, and of course the buffalo are out in the road right in my way. I can either wait for them to pass, but I chose to just drive slowly by them. They're pretty used to vehicles. As long as you don't do anything too quick, usually you're fine. Fortunately, in this case, I was. The road inside Yellowstone Park is basically a figure 8 with 5 entrances. I've covered this area in the black parentheses, and I'm heading down to Old Faithful, marked by the red arrow. The photos that follow here are in that area between that last parenthesis as I head down to Old Faithful. I'll include photos from Midway Geyser Basin, Biscuit Basin, and Upper Geyser Basin before I reach Old Faithful. Also interesting to see some of the birds. But Yellowstone is known for the wildlife, which I've shown you a lot of. It's also known for the many thermal features, which you'll start to see now. And the third thing it's known for, that I'll show in one of the later videos, are waterfalls. But it would be worth the trip to see any one of these features. Just to see the waterfalls, just to see the thermal features, or just to see the wildlife. Just spectacular. I love these pools of water, the reflections you get, the steam rising off the hot water. Of course, as the thermal features move, they kill the trees off in their path. Just a spectacular sight to see the water running down into the river. The different colors caused by different temperatures of water and bacteria that grows. And the different minerals that collect. Just a spectacular sight. I'm sure you thought I took a lot of pictures of buffalo. Well, I took a lot of pictures of these different geyser basins because they're just spectacular. Occasionally I'll include the name, but I just run along the boardwalk, snap off a bunch of pictures, take a few selfies so you know I was there. Seeing some of the people in a distance gives a little perspective, but just the designs, the different layers, the steam looks blue as it comes off off the crystal clear water, reflection from the sky probably. But just a cool place to see. If you watched my video on the Grand Canyon, I talked about my daughter and how for Father's Day she gave me a gift called Storyworth. I get a question emailed to me each week, and I have to respond, and then those responses and any pictures I include are made into a book. And one of the questions she asked was, what's the most beautiful place you've been to? And I mentioned a couple places, but one of them was Yellowstone National Park. And I think some of these pictures you've seen help you understand why. This is Grand Persimmon Spring. If you want to know the other place I mentioned, you'll have to watch that Grand Canyon video. Just beautiful sight everywhere you go. Some of the areas and roads were closed due to, I guess, danger from bears, or just due to the snow. They just weren't opened up yet. In fact, the whole lower road and the south entrance were still closed. They were supposed to open up the next day. I didn't really know if I should call this a hiking video or a trip video, because it's really both. I'm actually taking a trip to see my daughter and her family, but with planning 2 nights in Yellowstone, there's a lot of hiking. each of the boardwalks around the different thermal features run anywhere from about a half mile to even a couple miles. There's a lot of hiking trails throughout the park. One of my favorites that I was going to do a short hike on, unfortunately, was closed, so I couldn't do that. But I got plenty of walking in just around these different stops. Just even looking at it now, it's just amazing to see. It was a long drive from Phoenix to get up to Yellowstone, but once you're at the park, the drive is just spectacular and very rewarding. Even when you're not hiking around the features, the thermal features, or seeing the waterfalls, the scenery from the lakes and streams and trees and snow-capped mountains is spectacular. But it's also cool to see the boiling mud and geysers and everything else. So for the long drive, brought some Fritos and a bunch of peanut M&Ms. So for the last day, I lived on Fritos and peanut M&Ms. Thanks to Kelly, I learned that you can get these things cheaply at the dollar store. So I guess I'll tell you my dollar store experience. I walked into the store and they had a table full of all the candy and corn chips and M&Ms that I could want. And it said, everything on the table, $1. So I quickly scraped everything off the table into my bag, my little cart, and went up to the counter and plopped down my $1. And the lady there started, counting out each individual item. And I said, no, it said everything on the table, $1. And she said, no, that means every item on the table is $1 each. I said, well, that's not what the sign said. So she got her manager, and her manager came out. I said, it said everything on the table was $1. So here's my $1. He said, no, that's not the case. You're the only person that's ever misunderstood that sign. And I said, no, I beg to pardon. I said, I'm the only person that's ever understood the sign. At any rate, I'm no longer allowed in that dollar store, but fortunately there's a lot of them around town. Actually, I'm just kidding. That didn't actually happen. But it is true that I lived on Fritos and M&Ms the whole way. So I'm ready for some real food. It's hard to know how much time I should spend at each of these different basins, because I do have to get to Old Faithful, and you never know what you'll see along the way, when you'll want to stop, and how long it'll take. But sometimes it's just hard to leave. Just enjoying the view, the scenery, the colors. I would say the smells, but, well, that's a whole nother story. Since COVID, my sense of smell is, well, I'll just say greatly reduced. So the sulfur smell that you usually get in a lot of these areas, I just couldn't smell it. Well, as you can see, I made it to the Old Faithful Lodge. Buffalo were around, went out to Old Faithful to look for my daughter and her family. As you can see, there's a million other people there. This is Old Faithful before it goes off and as it starts to go off. Everyone gets excited with the first little splashes of water, but that was just a false alarm. Had to wait a little bit longer before it actually went.
Wow.
Ahora sí.
Wow. Wow. Okay.
Based on the reaction from all the people around me, I guess they were pretty excited. It is a spectacular sight to see.
There it goes.
And unfortunately, I couldn't find my daughter and her family, so I hung around and saw it go again. Still spectacular. I guess wow was a good word. Old Faithful. Unfortunately, my daughter and her family had taken the southern loop and it was closed. So they lost time, but eventually they made it and we met up. Now I'm taking a video, so everyone's got to introduce themselves. Okay. Who are you?
Freddie.
Freddie. And who are you?
Who?
Dean. How old are you? 3, 4, 2?
3.
He's trying to get it up there.
Get the other third.
There we go.
All right. And there's Jay.
Jay.
Danny.
Danny.
Ow, you're pulling my hair.
Jesse.
Oh, it's stuck in your hair.
Stuck in your hair. The Jeep spun out in your hair.
And where are we? We're at Old Faithful.
Hang on.
Oh boy. That's why you don't wear earrings. They were excited to be there, even though Kate said her name was Freddie and Dane was, well, didn't even want to say who he was. It also looks like Kate's confused about this sign. Danger, do not approach the buffalo. But we still had time to make a hike around the boardwalk at Old Faithful and see the sights and hopefully make it to one of my favorite places, Morning Glory Pool. But first, what was this place? Tortoiseshell Springs. Had to take a picture of that. And there we all are. Oh no, that was just our shadows. This is a picture of everyone. Even me. I just wish I had the energy that Kate had, because Morning Glory Pool is at the very end, the farthest point on the boardwalk. I'm always trying to get a great picture or video, but getting one of people's more challenging than buffalo. They move around more, or maybe they're just less cooperative.
Right. Oh, let me get you in that picture.
This is Kate. This is Geyser? Not a geyser, the beauty pool.
Except it's you.
And this is some of the others. We're walking down the boardwalk at Old Faithful.
Yep.
I shouldn't walk backwards. I'm just looking at the geyser. This is Riverside Geyser. Yeah. Aren't we lucky? Look at the rainbow in it. This geyser only goes off about every 7 hours. And so we just lucked out seeing it, and we were some distance away and thought it would be done by the time we walked up there. But as you can see, we had plenty of time. I'm going to take a selfie. Selfie video.
Okay. It's really clear. That's great.
Can you see me in it?
Yep, you're doing good. Yeah, I see you good. Jerry was here.
Enough of me. Have to prove I was here. What a special opportunity. I remember coming here as a child and bringing my daughter here when she was only about 13. And now I get to spend time with my grandkids. Morning glory. Just a spectacular looking geyser. And there's a spectacular looking family. And there's the sun.
Hey Jerry, you want to...
We gave it a big thumbs up, took some pictures, and then it was time to hike back. The nice thing about having a cabin at Old Faithful is it's late in the afternoon, or should I say early evening. And you'll see that no one's around as we hike back. Pretty much have the place to yourself. You can take the pictures you want. You can see the sights. And just kind of feel one with nature. What better way to spend it than with your family? Hi! And I gotta say, when Dean ran back to me and calls me Grandpa Fife, makes me feel pretty good.
Is it better?
It's pretty nice when your grandkids just love you unconditionally, because you're their grandpa. They think you're pretty cool. But I think they're pretty cool too. Old Faithful gets all the attention, but some of these other little pools, crystal clear, going down in the earth, are just spectacular to see. I love the colors and the crystal clear water. There, Kate taking a picture. Love seeing my grandkids enjoying the place and thrilled to be there. And of course, I kind of like being there too. I give it a 2 thumbs up. Crazy kids. They all gave it a thumbs up. There's the 2 women in my life, my daughter and my granddaughter. Just a fun time had by all. Of course, by now, I don't know, it was getting late. And in fact, even though we got to see this Riverside geyser, it was just a unique opportunity. By the time we were hiking back, we thought it might be getting close to the time for Old Faithful. But we enjoyed lots of pictures. Of course, morning glory was just spectacular. Was just thrilled to see it, and taking pictures from all different angles. Kate getting up high to take the best angle. But a lot of times it's just hard to take a bad picture here, because everything is just so spectacular. All the steam from the geysers, one Gulf view. There's Kate taking a picture again. Took a lot of pictures of her taking pictures. I just appreciate the fact that she enjoyed it that much that she wanted pictures of everything. And obviously I kind of like taking pictures, as you can tell by the 10,000 pictures I took. A little chipmunk running around. You can see the sun starting to go down. We don't have a lot more time. Ducks are sleeping. But the boiling water keeps boiling, the steam keeps coming, day or night. And now we finally made it to Old Faithful. There's Jesse and Dean and Kate, and there's Danny and Jay, just appreciating Old Faithful. And that was a good way to bring our day to an end. I hope you enjoyed our first day at Yellowstone National Park.
No, you want to take a picture, Jesse? Here.
Have a great day and come back again to see tomorrow's adventure.